Hi everyone, Pao here, and I'm shooting this video recording to document my journey of reading 52 books by the end of this year, 2021. So why 52 books, you might ask? Basically, they say that the average CEO reads one book a week, and I decided to take on that challenge and read 52 books within the span of a year. So I'm the kind of guy who loves to go to the bookshop and look at the bestsellers, nonfiction books, buy a book. But my main challenge is two things. One is I buy a book and I don't finish it. Two is if I do finish it, I may not retain much of that book. So hopefully with this strategy, I plan to retain more and be able to, finish more books. So recently, I discovered that audiobooks. Because of audiobooks, you're able actually to times two the reading speed, and you can do it while multitasking. So that has helped me a lot. And hopefully through this video recording, I'll be able to retain more with the books that I read, and at the same time, educate you guys with the things that I learned, the key takeaways that I got from the books I choose. And there's an old Latin proverb that says, by teaching we learn. And I also learned that from my colleague, and yeah, hopefully when I share, this book summary, I get to learn as well. So you're probably wondering, what book did I select for my first book? So I created a short presentation of, the book Limitless. So Limitless is actually a book by Jim Kwik. He's a memory trainer. He's trained a lot of celebrities, media personalities, athletes, and whatnot, right? And the funny thing is, when growing up, when he was a kid, he was branded or labeled by as the kid who had a broken brain. He basically had a hard time learning. And because of that, he was inspired, he was determined, and to actually learn how we learn. And he distilled it into this book, Limitless. Actually, when I was looking at this book, the first thing that popped into my mind was the movie of Bradley Cooper, the Limitless movie, wherein he takes a pill and then it unlocks the it unlocks 100% of his brain. So today, I just plan to give a book summary of my key takeaways of the book. And again, do take note that this is my first video, so do expect a lot of stuttering, a lot of, maybe me not being able to portray the message. Hopefully, I'll do my best. But yeah, this is one take, and hopefully, I do justice to this book. So the key takeaways of this book, I can distill it into two, four, six, two, four, six, seven, right? So the first one is the 3 M's of the Limitless method. The second is how to learn faster. There's an acronym for faster. Third is how do we suddenly see more or notice things? Thermometer versus thermostat. Which one are you? Remember better using pictures. The 6 Thinking Hats method by Edward de Bono. And last is the small simple steps. So let's start with the first one, which is 3 M's method. So Jim Kwik basically had, the 3 M's limitless model method. He distilled it into 3 key ideas: the mindset, motivation, and methods. So let's start with the first one, the mindset. So to him, in order to really unlock your potential, to really have a limitless brain, you need to have a balance of these three core aspects, right? So for example, mindset. You really need to start to have the right mindset. A lot of people, this is where they lack in terms of their internal beliefs and assumptions. They believe that they're born, not gifted. They're born, they're not smart, and so on and so forth. They have all of these internal beliefs that really block them from achieving their limitless capacity. The second one is motivation. So you may have the right mindset, internal beliefs, but if you do not have the right motivation, the right drive, the passion, you may start, but you won't be able to finish. You always start and start, but you're not able to finish. So you need to determine whether or not, what is your drive, what is your purpose, what do you want to actually achieve. And the last one, of course, even with the right mindset, motivation, if you don't have the right method, meaning if you don't put the right strategies in place, the techniques, the tools to use, and determine a process, you'll not be able to execute efficiently and effectively as possible. So these three M's, mindset, motivation, and method, work together to really unlock your limitless brain and for you to achieve more. So for me, I really like the way he distilled it into three circles. So it helped me actively think whether or not amongst the three M's, which one do I lack or which do I need to pay more attention to really unlock the limitless mindset, right? The second thing is remember the FASTER acronym. So, uh, Jim Kwik is a fast learner. And a lot of people were wondering how is he able to retain so much information? How is he able to understand a certain subject area and quickly learn? So he coined this acronym FASTER, which stands for F, forget. So I think the biggest challenge that most people encounter is whenever they're trying to study something new, they tend to have their previous assumptions or previous understanding on a certain concept. So his advice is the first is forget whatever past knowledge you had. You need to forget them, and be an be a sponge. Be willing to learn new things, accept all of the information, and then filter later on. Right. So you need to forget all past assumptions or past knowledge. The second one is you need to be active. So learning is not a passive thing to do. You need to be active. So how is that? So for example, if you're learning a key concept, rather than simply listening and then reading about it, it actually studies show that you actually learn more, retain more if you take down notes or if you actually do it, right? So you need to be active. You need to actually do or take down notes for you to actually learn faster. The third one is state. So a lot of people, they go to seminars, they go to classes, they listen to all of these talks and so on and so forth, but they may not be in the right mental state. So of course, if you're tired, if you're sleepy, if you don't have energy, if you're not in that right mental state, you'll have a challenge, you'll have trouble or a hard time absorbing all of this new information. So need to make sure that you're in the right state. This one's I love. The T I love, which I'm doing now, the teach. So they say that, the more you teach, the more you actually even learn and retain information. So whenever you learn something, um, in your head, also think about how are you gonna translate it into your own words, and how are you gonna, teach it as if you're gonna discuss it with a 5-year-old. So the simpler you're able to distill a concept, the higher chances that you actually learn from it. If you have that teaching mentality in mind. And the fifth one is enter. So enter, basically, what he's trying to say here is you need to enter it into your calendar, put a time block, because if you don't deliberately plan to learn, tendency is it gets pushed down, the priority list, and you're not able to fulfill it. So his advice is basically enter it into your calendar, put a time block when you actually dedicate your learning time. And the last one, of course, is repeat. So through repetition, you actually retain more, you learn more, and you become more proficient to it. Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hour rule, right? So forget, be active, have the right mental state, learn with the teaching mentality as if you're going to teach it to a 5-year-old, enter it into your calendar and repeat the process, right? Through this, you'll be able to speed up the learning process. This RAS system, I like this concept that he proposed, right? So basically, I'll show you a case study. So the example that he gave was, for example, we look at this car, right? This Beetle car. So prior to wanting to buy a Beetle car, you don't notice it whenever you're crossing the road, going to work, commuting, or driving. You don't seem to recognize or notice any Beetles or cars like this on the road. But when you suddenly read in the news that there's this new model and you're interested to buy, suddenly you're able to see, whenever you're commuting, you're able to see more of this car, and you feel that the universe is it's a sign that the universe is telling you it's really for you. There must be some magical force saying or giving a sign that you must buy, right? Haven't we all been in that situation? Actually, there's actually a scientific reason for that, which is what they call the reticular activating system. So this is basically a network of neurons in your brain that help filter information. So the most powerful uh, part in our body is actually the brain, right? Basically, every day when we wake up until we go to bed, we're fed with millions and millions of information. If our brain understood, took each and every information and fed it to our brain, tendency is we'd probably lose our minds or lose our heads, right? So the brain actually uses this RAS system, reticular activating system, to filter all the relevant and from all the relevant information from the non-relevant information. So to keep your sanity, right? So basically, going back to the story of the Beetle car, right? In the past, prior to reading that news article, seeing that new model, wanting to buy it, your brain wasn't aware that you're interested in this. So because of that, even if there has always been Beetle cars in the road, you don't notice them because your brain is filtering that information. But the moment you express interest subconsciously, your brain filters it to make it noticeable to you, and as if you feel that it's a sign, and so on and so forth. So I think this is very powerful, this nugget of wisdom, wherein it's true that the power of thoughts really can manifest into reality because, again, of this RAS system. Next nugget of wisdom is the thermometer versus thermostat. So if you were to ask yourself, which one are you? So before that, we determine or we define what's the difference between a thermometer and thermostat. So the first one is a thermometer. The sad thing is most cultures, most companies fall under this category. Mainly because they're influenced by their surroundings. So for example, if you're a business leader, if you're a owner, tendency is if the mood of your team is down, not motivated, it spreads across the entire organization. So rather than be a thermometer wherein you simply adapt to the existing climate or the existing environment you are in, why not be a thermostat, right? The difference between a thermometer is thermometers simply read the temperature, they adapt to it. But thermostats, they're able to create or influence their surroundings. So for example, if you're in a business setting or if in your company culture, if majority of your people are depressed and so on, you actually need to proactively think, how can you actually change that? How can you create a culture of inspired individuals? How can you create a culture of openness, right? So rather than simply take your environment as is, have that proactiveness to actually change for the better, right? So be a thermostat rather than a thermometer. Next, okay, so I had this challenge before wherein I read a lot of books, but tendency is after a week or two, I forget them. So this is relatively new to me, but I think it's a very good tactic to actually help you remember better. So the power of pictures to remember better. So he has an acronym again, tip, turn into picture. So turn into pictures because pictures help us remember better. And the key to remember better with pictures is being able to be creative, to make it as audacious as possible, as bold as possible, or as extravagant as possible. And he also taught the memory palace. So the memory palace concept is basically think of a place where you can vividly remember. So perhaps your bedroom, your house. So think of that place vividly from the moment you see your house, or the door, you enter the door, you take off your shoes and so on and so forth, walk to the sala. So the key of this memory palace is if you're trying to, for example, remember a list of 10 items, rather than simply through repetition, like apple, banana, potato, rice, a grocery list, for example, rather than simply, through repetition, memorize it. To make it more effective, you can actually turn that into a picture in your head, right? So, for example, an apple, you can input it into your memory palace. And, for example, if I choose my house or my condo unit, at the start, I picture you know, a large apple uh, that is blocking my door, right? And then when I open the door, I have banana shoes that I need to wear. And then after the banana shoes, I see two potatoes dancing in the sala, right? So it's pretty weird, you know, pretty weird basically. So the more weirder it is, the easier it is to recall. And if you notice, if I were to think about it now, the grocery list now, because I vividly remember my memory palace, and because the items were magnified in my imagination, I can easily remember. So you can apply it in lessons, you can apply it in grocery list, anything you want to remember. Just pick a memory palace, pick a symbol that represents that concept, and then make it, magnify it, or make it as audacious as possible, and then fill it into your memory palace. Because of that, pictures in your mind, you can actually remember better. So last two that I wanted to highlight, the last two slides, is the six thinking hats. So for me, I love this concept. This was actually originated by Edward de Bono, which was highlighted in the book, The Six Thinking Hats. So haven't we all been in a situation wherein, whether it's a planning session, whether it's a business discussion, um, there's always that person who is super optimistic about something. There's the other guy who is, very cautious, who always finds the loophole and is very resistant, right? So basically, the six thinking hats um, basically has the different. It takes you, or deliberately makes you think, or be put on a hat to have different perspectives. So each color, each six thinking hats has is represented by a different color. So we'll start with the blue. The blue hat basically, whenever the blue hat, it's a thought process of more on the planning, the execution. What's the goal that we want to achieve? What are the milestones that we want to put? It's more of managerial, right? So it's very important to actually, start or end with that, by clearly identifying what's your goal, what's your strategic objective, what are the different milestones, who are the people, stakeholders needed. So it's more of the process. After thinking about the process, the structure, and whatnot, it's also important to be creative, right? So this is represented by the green hat. So the green hat, basically, everybody, if you were discussing in a boardroom and the green hat is used, no one is allowed to block an idea. Everyone needs to give a creative idea. uh, the possibilities are endless, and there's no crazy idea. So a lot of because of this methodology, a lot of innovations can actually happen, right? So creativity, the green. The next one is the white hat. So it's also important to identify what are the facts that we need to know. What do we need to know? What do we need to find out? Where can we get this information? Without these data, we can't make a guided business decision. So with the white hat, it's also important to collect the relevant information that would help guide business decision making. The fourth one is the yellow one. So the benefits. So this is where you can actually think about, what are the if we decide to do this, what are the benefits? What are the positive points? Why this idea can actually be great? Why can this help our company? So all of the positive things, you can write it down. All of the members in the meeting pitch in their ideas. Um, the fifth one is feelings. So feelings, so there's also an aspect of gut. There's also an aspect of intuition, right? So with the red hat, you also need to put on a perspective of what do you feel about it? What's your gut feel? What's your intuition about a certain recommendation, about a certain person? And you can even voice it out, right? And all the other people also voice it out. And lastly is the black hat, which is the cautious hat. So this is where you identify what can go wrong, what are the risks, what are the implications, what are the weaknesses basically of the idea. So the main point of the Six Thinking Hats by Edward de Bono is to detach yourself from being too emotionally attached to the problem and take a step back, a bird's eye view, and deliberately, force yourself to be creative, to look for facts, to highlight all the benefits, all the downfalls. So this thinking process can greatly help, business discussions, management meetings, or even your personal relations with your peers or loved ones, right? So it's very important, a cool thinking process that you could use and apply immediately. Six thinking hats. And the last one is, highlighting pictures is the social security system. No, I'm just kidding. Small, simple steps. So after reading this book, at the end of the day, it won't be as effective, as useful if you don't apply it, right? And the common challenge that most people see is they get blown away by too many information, too much of a step, too much of a risk adjustment, so on and so forth. So one of the things that I liked about the book is they highlighted the small, simple step, or the SSS. So nugget of wisdom, little by little, a little becomes a lot. Inch by inch, it's a cinch. Yard by yard, it's way too hard. So if you had a big, hairy, audacious goal, right? Similar to what I'm doing now, I declared by the end of 2021, I want to read 52 books. When you think about it, 52 is a lot. A book a week, it's a huge commitment. But, I decided to take it one day at a time. I read 1 hour a day, and then hopefully over time I'll be able to accumulate and read 52 books. So again, it starts with that one step, little by little. Eventually, you're looking back in hindsight. Now, wow, you achieved a lot. Again, it's very important to break it down into smaller steps and do it consistently every day. So I think a lot of us are guilty there. We're good at starting, and then the follow through is where we lack. So it's again persistency and consistency. So again, if you're persistent, you can have it. You can definitely have it. But if you are consistent, you can keep it. If you're persistent, you can have it. If you're consistent, you can keep it. So again, persistence, taking that first step and being consistent at it day in and day out, no matter how hard it is, still to do it. So again, I wanted to summarize the key takeaways of the book, which is the 3 M's, Limitless method, how to learn using the acronym faster, how come putol to, thermostat versus thermometer, which one are you? Remember better by using pictures, 6 thinking hats method, and the small simple steps. So with that, that's the end of my first book summary of Limitless. I'm reading my second book, actually. Reveal it soon. Hopefully next week I finish it. With that, I'll be uploading this on YouTube. So please like and subscribe. Paulo Balinas, both YouTube and LinkedIn. Hopefully, I'll be able to post every week. So subscribe, like, and subscribe. Thanks, and hopefully you enjoyed. Stay tuned to my next book, my second out of the 52 books I plan to read this year. So thank you, and have a great day or evening. Goodbye.